Most film productions shoot far more footage than we ever see, and the stuff we do get to see on the big screen is usually there for a pretty good reason. But when the final edits are made, some deleted scenes are sorely missed from the movies they were cut from. They might add extra layers to the characters and their stories, provide humorous breaks in dramatic action, or even give the audience a fascinating new perspective on the plot itself. But these are not those scenes. No, these cinematic mistakes were better off left on the cutting room floor. A dark turn. The Back to the Future movies were never supposed to be anything but crackerjack, wholesome family fun, so it's easy to see why this particular scene in Part 3 ended up in the trash. Early on in the movie, Buford Tannen's gang face off with the local marshal and his young son. After disarming the marshal, Tannen orders him to leave town. He does, but Tannen shoots him in the back anyway, right in front of the boy.
Remember that word, son. Discipline.
While this might have been in keeping with Tannen's ruthless, detestable character, it would have been a shocking departure from the trilogy's lighthearted tone. Ant-Man wins big. Scott Lang's desire to turn away from crime and become a suitable role model for his young daughter Cassie was one of Ant-Man's principal character arcs, so it's no surprise then that this scene didn't make the cut. It featured Scott's buddies Kurt, Luis, and Dave indulging in a night out at a casino, consistently getting lucky with the help of a certain diminutive hero. It's an entertaining sequence, but given Scott's steadfast insistence on turning over a new leaf, it wouldn't have made a whole lot of sense in the context of the movie. Hadley's Lost Hope. In James Cameron's 1986 masterpiece Aliens, Sigourney Weaver's Ellen Ripley returns to the moon LV-426 to make contact with a lost human colony. Accompanied by a ragtag band of space marines, Ripley finds the colony deserted and half destroyed, resulting in some of the Alien saga's darkest and most unsettling scenes.
Nothing. Not a god thing.
The movie's original cut, however, included another scene which single-handedly put an end to all the tension and terror of the abandoned Hadley's Hope. Here, we meet the inhabitants of the colony as they go about their day, complete with lengthy, unnecessary static shots and a walk-and-talk conversation between two characters which adds almost zero substance to the plot. We also meet Newt and her family before the scene concludes with the movie's first appearance of a facehugger. All in all, it amounts to an arduous, useless bout of exposition which would have drained pretty much all of the suspense from the movie's terrifying second act. Judgment Revoked. The ending to Terminator 2 Judgment Day is the perfect coda to a grim, thrilling sci-fi adventure. The audience's point of view traverses a dark, mysterious road while a weary Sarah Connor muses on the ambiguity of the future before allowing herself a brief, final glimmer of hope for humanity's fate. James Cameron's original ending, however, was a little less ambiguous. We see an elderly Sarah sitting in a park while an adult John Connor plays with his daughter. Sarah states flatly into a tape recorder that Judgment Day has been and gone.
August 29th, 1997 came and went. Nothing much happened. Michael Jackson turned 40.
She then makes a few comments on humanity's future, which you might recognize from the final cut. Fade to black, roll credits. It's far too tidy an ending and totally unsuitable for the movie it's supposed to wrap up. Then again, it wouldn't have left much room for a sequel either, which may not have been the worst thing in the world. A grievous error. The showdown between Obi-Wan Kenobi and his wheezing alien nemesis General Grievous was one of Revenge of the Sith's most entertaining sequences. According to a discarded animatic for the scene, however, the fight almost ended in the most ridiculous way possible. The scene would have played out largely the same, right up to the moment that Kenobi manages to partially pry open Grievous's protective chest plate. Rather than getting cold-cocked and nearly falling to his death, Kenobi would have finished Grievous off by tearing out his heart with his bare hands, casually tossing it aside and blasting it with his sidearm. Somehow managing to be both way too dark and cartoonish at the same time, the very fact that this scene was cut from the movie is quantifiable proof that George Lucas is sometimes capable of discarding bad ideas. Not quite getting out. At the climax of Jordan Peele's masterpiece Get Out, protagonist Chris Washington finally escapes the grip of the nefarious Armitage family. As he barely restrains himself from strangling Rose, his ex-girlfriend and pursuer, a police car arrives. Knowing nobody could possibly believe his story, Chris prepares to be arrested, or worse, but it's a fake-out. The car is driven by Chris's TSA buddy Rod, who helps Chris make good his escape. In the movie's original ending, however, it really is the police who arrive, and Chris is promptly arrested and taken to jail.
I'm good. I stopped it, you know. I stopped it.
Although it might have made for a more realistic conclusion to the plot, Peele's decision to give the beleaguered Chris a happy ending seems like it was for the best. Clerks' Last Shot. Kevin Smith's 1994 debut feature is a largely plot-free film which found most of its comedic mileage in the reference-laden dialogue of its slacker leads. It's a slight, sardonic work in which almost nothing happens, which would have made its alternate ending not only shocking, but completely inappropriate. In the original ending, Dante is closing up the store after Randall leaves. A man approaches the counter and Dante informs him that they're closed, only to be shot dead on the spot. As the man cleans out the register, the movie ends with a close-up on Dante's lifeless body. Smith claimed that he shot this ending simply because he had no idea how to end the movie, but fortunately, star Brian O'Halloran, who hated the sequence, was able to convince him to cut it. Thank goodness, or the film might not have become the cult classic it is today.